All right, fellow coders, welcome to this next episode of our podcast here. This is episode number 62, and in this one we're going to be talking with Jeff. Jeff is someone who made another bit of a jarring transition where he moved from being a guide in the mountains for teenagers and spending weeks outside in the great outdoors being a guide for these teenagers and switching from that into a career in tech, which is very, quite polar opposite situations going on there. So we'll learn more about what his experiences were like when he was a guide in the mountains and dealing with teenagers and how that went and how his journey changed and how his career path has changed over time and why it is that he has this interest in coding now. We're also going to find out how he was able to view the journey, sort of peek over the shoulder of some of his peers as they made exactly the same transition and what that did for him and his viewpoint on him being able to do it for himself. And we're going to learn how, when he eventually decided to take the leap into this world of tech, how he spent over a solid month of meticulous and, determined research where he looked at all of his options and he was very, very detailed with how he approached it. So we're going to learn about what he did in that research process, what takeaways you can get from what he did, what learnings you can get from him and his process of doing that deep, deep research, and ultimately why he chose to go with Coders Campus and our boot camp. All that and more in this episode. Again, number 62. So if you want to get the show notes, it's coderscampus.com/62. So without further ado, let's flip over to Jeff and learn about him and his journey. Who are you? Who's Jeff? Who were you before the boot camp? What hobbies, what interests do you have? Tell me about yourself.
Well, I'm Jeff. I live in Washington State, so in the Northwest. Before I started the boot camp for the last 10 years, I worked at a nonprofit called Outward Bound. They take people of all ages, but mostly youth, on backpacking and rock climbing expeditions. So I started there as an instructor in 2014, and I worked 14 and 22-day long backpacking and rock climbing courses in California. And it was fun. And, it has there's very fun parts. And then there's parts when you have 8 16-year-olds crying on the side of the trail because they want to go home. So it has the metaphor of life, has the ups and the downs. And and then I kind of eventually made my way into more administrative positions within nonprofit, that organization specifically. And most recently, I was the program director for their program down in Joshua Tree, California. So we ran courses in the Mojave Desert and mostly worked with students from Los Angeles. I spent a solid decade just working with people. And I did a lot of time kind of working with hypothetical atmosphere that I kind of created. Students showed up for a trip and none of them knew each other, and I kind of facilitated the building of a team and kind of the accomplishing of a goal, whether it was getting to camp for the day or climbing a peak together. And I did the same thing with staff. I helped staff learn about themselves and learn how to work together well, how to build curriculum or structure an activity to pull the learning out of that. And I think I kind of hit the point where it was just time to do something different. I poured a lot of myself into the program, into Outward Bound and the people and the place, and I was feeling a little bit spent.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy building things, whether it's a hypothetical atmosphere for people to learn and grow, or if it's doing a project, like a house project.
Sure.
And I kind of found the collision of working as a team and building something together to be computer programming. And I'm not a
and we'll get there. We'll get there. I have some follow-up. Yeah, I have follow-up questions before we dive into that part.
Yeah, totally.
So that strikes me as, first of all, I'm jealous of I don't live, the largest peak, if you can call it a peak here, is a slight rolling hill. Right. So
Sure.
we don't have many. And I've been out west before with the mountains, and it's just so breathtaking and incredible. And I wish my family had grown up in the west because I feel like mountains call to me. But anyway, I would have been one of those 16-year-olds, but I think I would have been a willing participant.
Those are great.
So you sound like a fairly active. Would you describe yourself as an active?
Yeah. And I think that's another part. The way that I kind of can make it, I feel is just being active. This weekend, I made a point to go outside.
Hmm.
To like, even if I live in a very snowy place, even if the weather's not that great, I try to make a point to just go outside and like be in nature,
Hmm.
and
It's
just like
great.
move my body. Because I feel
Totally.
like I have also back things going on with my back, and I feel like if I prioritize doing that, even if it's just walking around, I feel so much better during the week in the evening. But yeah, my wife and I, we are big like hikers and backpackers on
Yeah.
our own time,
I love
and
it. I love it.
yeah, we just have spent a lot of time outside, and I see the benefit of just spending time outside to be really
Absolutely.
important. So,
Yeah, Jeff made reference to back issues. I recently had a back injury. Actually, not too. It's been almost a year that I've been dealing with this. Thankfully, I'm definitely on the mend now. I'm doing the right stuff. But part of it is just getting back into actually doing real exercise again and getting outside. And I bought this. What do you call it? Like a weighted vest. So I
mhm.
put, I don't know, it's not too much, maybe 25 pounds on me, and I go for walks every other day outside. And I also live in a snowy place. I'm in, near Toronto, Canada. So today, lovely. Thankfully, it's lovely and sunny. But I've been out there with that weighted vest on, with the whatever balaclava or whatever on my face, with the
Yeah,
ski goggles, and like I look like I'm in a militia or something, and I'm just walking, right? So yeah,
yeah. I mean, I feel like it really starts with walking. I
yeah,
feel like some people get connected to this thing like, I got to train for a marathon, I got to run whatever.
sure,
But I don't think it's like, I don't know. I think in our evolution, maybe as humans, to go that far is like we all just walked around. That's how we
yeah.
got around. And so I think, yeah, the act of just walking is just a really like healing thing, at least for me. So
Yeah, especially being
try
out
to
in
do that.
nature, and like I love it. I feel terrible when I've been locked up for too long in my little office here. And anyway, so cool. We have definitely have that in common. I'm the only thing I wish I could get away from, get into mountains and get away from snow. I'm just not a big snow guy. I would love it to be, well, I would say 21 degrees, which I'm Canadian, so that, whatever, that's 70 degrees Fahrenheit,
Yeah. Yeah.
year round would be perfect. So yeah, Jeff, active dude. Sounds like you've got some leadership stuff there. You are, almost like you're well, guide. The word guide feels
Sure.
very,
Yeah.
very accurate. So now we can start to talk. Well, okay, so you did that for 10 years. You said you sort of spent, and then you sort of just, decide you want to pivot into something else. You made some connections there with, the team and maybe guide and creating stuff, and how that might, fit well with software and creating software. But let's dive into that. So what started you even thinking like, hey, software is an option for me? Like why would you where those dots connect?
Yeah, and I have like I don't have any structured education in like computer science or any of those kind of like more technical things, but in high school I took a really basic like entry programming class. It was like I did like a computer skills class where you just learn the basics of like Word and Excel. And then the instructor was like, you should check out this programming class that I'm putting on. And it was a really small class. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to try it out. And to be honest, I was like way in over my head, had no idea what was going on the
Do you
whole
remember
time.
like what language it was or what
I don't
tool
even
you
remember.
no. Yeah.
I just
Okay.
like was like, no, I had no idea what was going on. But I feel like that kind of planted the seed of like, even though I had no idea what was going on, it's a really cool thing to know about, to kind of
Sure.
like, I don't know, kind of like pull back the veil on like what I'm looking at on my computer or what I'm looking at on like my phone. And yeah, and I feel like that kind of planted a seed in my mind. And then recently in the last like 2 or 3 years, I've had a few people who I worked with in my last job who kind of did this. They took a boot camp, they made the transition into
Nice.
like the tech industry. And I feel like just watching them do that and kind of hearing their story, I was like, oh, I think, I had an experience with coding, computer programming in the past. I enjoyed it, even though I had no idea what was going on. It is definitely a way that I could see myself going. And I started doing kind of the free online things, like I did
Great place to
some
start.
free
Yeah.
code camp kind
Yep.
of things.
Your Code Camp, Code Academy. There's tons
Yeah,
of Udemy courses.
yeah,
Anything. I always say, start free or very low cost. Don't spend more than like $100 on a course. Dip your
yeah.
toes in, see how that. So how did that go? Usually it's a bit overwhelming, but I'll let you. Yeah. Well, how did that
Yeah, I
feel
mean,
doing
it
that stuff?
was definitely overwhelming. Like I did what I could do. Like I did the responsive web design course, which is,
Sure.
mostly HTML, CSS, and like I was just kind of getting to like the next thing was like JavaScript or whatever, but I didn't really make it there. Yeah, and I think I was mostly just trying to see if I enjoyed it. Because I feel like if I'm gonna do this for a job, I better like it.
Hmm.
I better enjoy like whatever I'm building, better enjoy doing it. And I like I had a fun time
Okay.
just, start typing this thing on the computer and then watching it change on the screen.
Yeah.
And now it's a little bit more behind the scenes, a little bit harder to watch it change on the screen
Mhm.
in this boot camp, but it's cool to just see it all kind of come together.
And let's really quickly dive and come back. Whereabouts? Because I should have asked you this before. Whereabouts are you in the boot camp? Have you graduated now? Are you close to graduating? Are you in the beginning, in the middle?
I
Whereabouts?
am on assignment 13.
13. Okay. Well, that's
So
funny. I think the person I spoke with yesterday is on the same in the same spot. So you're pretty deep into it. That's
yeah,
there's 14 total, and then a final.
I
I think
never
there's.
even know because I can't even see what's coming
Oh,
next.
that's true. I think there's 14. I should know this. I created the thing. I believe there's 14 total, and then a final assignment. Yeah. So you're right near the end. So that's good. Okay. So now I have some context in terms of where everything is. So going back, you did some HTML, CSS, some responsive web design. Cool. Definitely, it's an asset to have that stuff. A lot of people start there. Cool. Perfectly fine place to start. Usually then people get into JavaScript and then they're like, this is not for me. Like this is what happened. Where is this? Like there's no tags or like what's like so because JavaScript is really actual programming, just like the Java language, which we focus on in the bootcamp, is actual programming. And it's vastly different from just plain old HTML. Because HTML, you can get by with just like memorization,
Yeah.
pure memorization. Whereas when you get into actual code, you can't just memorize anymore. So cool. And oftentimes when people start their journey doing free stuff, free code camp or code academy or whatever free courses, you said I was looking to see if I liked it, which is good and something to keep an eye on because whenever you start anything new that you're not good at, you're probably not going to like it because you don't tend to like, and I was like you, Jeff, but the royal you, whatever. People don't tend to love stuff that they have absolutely no skills in whatsoever. So that's one thing to keep in mind is you're probably going to still not enjoy some moments, but I think it's when you successfully complete whatever task it is that you then I think that's where that spark of like, okay, that was fun. But
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. Like what was your experience like on the or did you like the struggle? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. In my previous work, it was really, I tend to be a person of metaphors in my life. And because that's kind of what we tried to do in previous work was like draw the metaphor from the trip back to their student's life. So it's
Mhm.
like climbing the peak. Yeah, this is really hard. It's scary. We got our helmets on. This is super terrifying for these 15-year-olds. But they get to the top and it's like, we did it. And yes, so we still got to get down, sure. But like, I feel like I kind of like the struggle a little bit.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, doesn't mean there's been a few assignments so far that I was like, oh my God, what is going on here? Like, I
Yeah.
have no idea what's happening. And I was extremely frustrated. And I think when I reflect, it's like I think I learned through the struggle, and I mostly learned about myself in that of like, oh, this is how I am gonna feel when I have a job as a software engineer or whatever. I'm
Yep.
probably gonna have so many moments like this, and so I better get ready for these like struggle feelings
Good
because it's
mindset.
gonna come. I'm just breaking the surface here, and yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes I mostly reflect on how I responded to the struggle like reflecting on like did I respond to the struggle the way that I wanted to respond to the
Okay.
struggle?
Good.
And there's been a few moments in the boot camp I'm like, that is when I reflect back, I'm like, I wish I would have responded this way instead of this way.
Can you
But
have
I
an
think that's all
example?
part of the learning process, you know?
Do you have an example of that? An event that transpired where you wish you could have responded differently?
I
It's okay
mean,
if you don't remember,
oh
but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I feel like the one that comes to my mind is assignment number 7 is this
Okay.
one.
That's the
And
unit
it's
testing, I think.
yeah, exactly. The unit
Okay.
testing. And I think just I felt at least when I met with Pete, the instructor, I realized I was like approaching the problem like the wrong way. Like I wasn't using the unit tests to help me understand what was wrong with the code.
Gotcha.
I was kind of like trying to do like seeing what the code was doing and then trying to do the unit tests to do the code. It was just I was just like not understanding the process.
Hmm.
And yeah, I feel like I was like pretty frustrated with Pete, like for myself, but like voicing it to Pete because I was meeting with him about it. Yeah, and I feel like I wish I had been a little bit more calm. Like your mind definitely doesn't help you when you're like flustered or frustrated.
Hmm.
So that idea of learning how to be calm and be like, I'm just gonna like take 10 minutes and go on a walk and I'll come back. And it turned out I realized what was wrong, like driving in the car.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
that evening, I was like, oh, that I should try that. I haven't tried that yet.
Yeah.
And then like I got home and it like worked in 10 minutes. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh
There's
my
the number
God.
of times that's happened to me in programming, but like especially early on, like when I was in school for this stuff, you'd wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever, and have a thought and be like, oh. And back then, when I was young and spry and whatever, I'd hop out of bed at 2 a.m. and try to code it. Now there's no way I would do that. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, those moments of inspiration, it just happens, right? It's this weird, your mind's always chewing on it, and then something clicks, and then you figure it out. But anyway, to give you some reassurance, the number of, let's say not calm messages that I and Pete have received from students struggling, I've lost count. Right.
Yeah.
It's a very frustrating thing. So you're not alone in the response of being not calm with the
Yeah.
with the struggle. So, and that's just par for the course. That is what the experience is with learning how to code. I don't know many people who sailed through it and were like, oh, that was pretty easy. Like I don't know if I've met a single person who said that about learning to code. So
Yeah.
yeah. So then you started to you had this seed planted in your mind of, oh, software could be a thing. You saw some you said colleagues or whatever do make the transition. That's helpful, right? That's kind of why I do these stories, right? That's why I do
Yeah.
these interviews, to say, look, here's some real people that could be just like you listening. Maybe you listening. Maybe you are also, into rock climbing, and then maybe even you've done some guided tour, like, and you'll be like, wow, that's just like me, right? So that's I'm
Mhm.
trying to get the connection of like, you don't have to be a genius to do this
Yeah.
stuff, right? People
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
always think that you have to be a genius, and well, sure, that might help, but it's not. The majority of programmers, trust me, the majority of programmers I've met are not geniuses. The ones I've been working for like 15 years in the industry, they're just normal people, and we mess up all the time behind the scenes. You would never see it, but like,
Yeah.
I try to publish my mess ups like on YouTube when I'm coding out something publicly, and you'll see me mess up all the time. So it's, I'm not a genius here. I've just been making the same mistakes for 15 years, and can recognize those mistakes, hopefully recognize them, and therefore not make them. So yeah, you saw the journeys of other people and you said, oh, maybe I could do that too. So then what did that look like? What steps did you take to start to, you said you started some free stuff, and then how did that evolve?
Yeah, I tend to be a kind of person who takes a long time to decide. And then like once I decide, I'm like committed, I'm in. So I feel like I really kind of, I don't know, just like sat on the idea for a while. Even before I left my job as a program director, I was like trying to do a few things in the evenings after work,
Mm-hmm.
continuing the free things and just committing some time. And I just kind of started going down the rabbit hole for a really long time of looking at the opportunities that were out there. Because
Six months, a year, 2 years, 5 years was a
I
really
feel
long
like
time.
it was maybe like a year,
Okay,
maybe like
that's a
6 months to a year of like, okay, I'm gonna like do some searching around, and it's just, yeah, whatever is out there, like all the options. I was so overwhelmed. I just didn't even not had no idea how to even choose one of them.
right.
So I also tried to do any of the like, if they were like, try do an intro course at this like boot camp. I was like, okay,
Sure.
I'll do that and just see the learning style, because I knew, at least for me, I needed like a specific type of learning. Like I needed to talk with someone if I was stuck, and I needed to have like a structure of like, here are the meeting times, whether that was like we meet every day or like here are the times that we do meet. I needed to have like some accountability in that for me to like do the work.
Hmm.
And I think I kind of narrowed it down to like a couple of the like full immersive ones that were like, you're going to do this for whatever, 4 months every day for, it's going to be like 50 hours a week or whatever it
Right.
is that they
Full
say.
full
Like,
time. Yeah.
yeah, it was a full-time thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I think if I do it, I want to kind of do it in like a full-time situation and just like be committed to it and really kind of immerse myself in it. And and then I kind of started going down the path of, oh, like, okay, I'm going to look into this one that has an immersive, like, who are the instructors?
Sure.
And I think that's kind of where at least I landed on Coders Campus, is because I started kind of diving a little bit deeper into like the people that were behind the organizations
Hmm.
to really understand, because really like what makes the school, the organization, the company is like the people, and like who are the people that are running the organization. And I think that's where maybe Coders Campus kind of stood out of like, oh, like you're not an instructor, Trevor, that like just finished the boot camp and now is an
Right.
instructor at the boot
Yeah.
camp.
That's a
Um,
common, that's a very, if you're a profit hungry corporation with investors that want bottom line, it's a great way to do it. Right. Yeah.
yeah.
So
And it doesn't
anyway,
mean you don't
yeah.
have, and staff who were students, which
Hmm.
is definitely needed and like great to like speak to the student experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, but like I think just the fact that like you and Pete especially are like, oh, combined you have whatever 40 years of experience
Probably
together
close to it.
or
Yeah.
something like that. And
Hmm.
and I was like, okay, I would like to learn from someone, from people who like actually have worked in industry and can like speak with truth of like actually how it is out there,
Yeah.
like what's going on out there. And at least for their, it changes fast, but at least like some kind of slice of like this is what happens in the real world.
Hmm.
I feel like that was in my mind that was going to set me up the best for an actual role in
Sure.
industry, and not just like, yeah, I know how to code in JavaScript. It's like,
Cool.
oh, I know how to code in JavaScript and Java, and I also kind of have a handle on what it might feel like because I've asked these questions and people who have been out there are answering them.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's kind of what brought me around to Coders Campus, is just like, oh, there's experienced instructors who work in the industry, and those are the people that I want to like surround myself with. And just
Yeah.
even Pete, just like the number of like little nuggets that get dropped where I'm like, I would never get that anywhere else. Just like kind of Pete off on some tangent, but like dropping a little nugget of wisdom
Sure.
has been awesome.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah. Yeah. I think so that's good feedback. That's good feedback to hear. Because I know there are some, because you don't necessarily have to have, you definitely don't need 15 years of real world experience to be able to teach other people how to code, right? I don't know what the minimum is, maybe 5 years minimum, and you could totally do that. But the way we do it is, well, the way I do it, I do this because I like to do this, right? I don't have to run a boot camp. Again, I've always said it would be far easier to not run a boot camp and just sell regular old online courses, be one of those like sell a course for $20 or $40 and like sit back and it would be far easier to do that, so much easier. But the success rate is so low, right? People, I always say that what graveyard of online courses do you have in your library of courses you've never even opened yet that you've purchased or that you're
Mm-hmm.
halfway through and never finished? And like, so it's just everyone has a graveyard of courses that they never even opened or didn't finish. And that's what I was seeing with my data. People would sign up for my low cost courses and then, there's like a 2% completion rate. I was like, oh, I think like what is my goal? My mission is to actually help change people's lives. The vehicle I use is coding, right?
Sure.
But really what I'm about is changing people's lives,
Yeah.
right? For the better, of course. I don't want to make
Yeah.
it worse. But I can make probably a lot more money to make it worse. But anyway, the success I've had in my career as a programmer and the lifestyle I've been able to live has been very rewarding and
Mm-hmm.
it's made for a very happy life for me and my family. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, what are we solving for in life other than, let's be happy. Let's hopefully make some impact in the world, right?
Yeah.
As cheesy as it sounds. So that was ultimately what was driving me. And I was like, I need to do better, right? I need to. So that's where the idea of this boot camp came from. And it's nothing new. There's other boot camps. There's plenty of competitors, but the thing is that it's like, well, I want to do this. This is what actually, as corny as it sounds, this is what brings me joy, right?
Yeah.
Being able to do this right here with you and me, Jeff. Like this is like I can't believe this is my job, right? I don't know
Yeah.
how many times I've said that before, but so I think yeah, maybe some of that comes through, and I'm glad that it came through a little bit with the experience part. Yeah, because I joke I could make a lot more money just being a coder for like Google or Facebook or
Yeah.
whatever. Right? It's
Yeah.
it's I don't want to say it's not hard to get a job with those organizations, but there's a path you could follow. You could study this specific all these bloody hacker rank and leak
Yeah.
code and like you can
Yeah.
grind on this for 6 months and then you could get a job with Google.
Yeah.
It's just I don't want to do that, right? I'm not really going to change people's lives working at Google. So
No,
anyway,
I think that
yeah,
was what was really important. I mean, I watched all the videos, like the pre things and like all the
like the
meetings
beginner
just
course
to,
or
what do you say?
The beginner's course or something different?
I did the beginner's course, but then even like you have a few videos of just like why Coders Campus, or
Oh, do
like
I?
that
Okay.
you can do a boot camp, or like it does work, or I don't know, where you're just like you're in the room you're in now and you're just like talking to a hypothetical person,
Right. Oh,
whoever's
probably saying the same
watching.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just
Yeah.
think, I mean, what stood out to me was that like, yeah, you focused more on not like the act of learning to code, but like that like there's more in you than you know kind of thing, which is like the tagline of the organization I work for, Outward Bound. It's like there's more in you than you know.
Right.
And I was like, cool, like this person has tapped more into like the human side of what it
Right.
is to like be a learner and to grow. And I was like, those are the kinds of people I want to surround myself with when
Mhm.
I'm like in the struggle on assignment 7.
Right.
People
Exactly.
that are gonna like help me understand that this is like a growth, like a growing space, and not just like, oh, here's the answer and like move on to the next thing and we'll figure it out later. So
Yeah.
I just appreciated that vibe in general
Good.
from the boot camp.
Nice. Sweet. I'm checking time. I want to make sure yeah, okay. So you went and looked at, different, how many, or what do you call them, boot camps or programs? Do you remember how many you looked into?
I feel like I narrowed it down to like solid like 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had like the big ones, and
Right.
I kind of like talked to like a student, whatever, student rep person, and
Right. That's what I
just
recommend.
kind of
Talk to
get
all
a,
of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
I talked to them all. I tried to ask them all questions, like where there was like a free entry course, or like some of them had like intro courses, like, oh,
Mhm.
before you take this, you need to take this 40-hour intro course. So I like did that thing.
Nice.
I just really tried to like be thorough when I narrowed it down to like the type of learning that I needed. I
Good.
needed like a structured meeting. I needed like some self-direction, time for myself, and then also like to be able to reach out to people and get a response when I needed
Mhm.
it. And so I just kind of narrowed it down to those things, and then, pursued them all and kind of like got a sense of how they were
Good.
basically. So
That's that is 100% the game plan. Like for anyone, for if you listening to this, whoever you are listening to this, the path that Jeff took is absolutely what I recommend. It is take some free stuff, you know, dip your toes in it. It's going to suck. Probably you're going to be overwhelmed. That's very normal. Hopefully you enjoy it. If whether you enjoy the struggle or whether you enjoy the outcome once you solve the thing, hopefully you get past whatever hurdle you're in and it's like, oh, okay, I did enjoy that. And you keep doing some reps there with free stuff. And then if you feel like, well, some people can actually do it on their own, right? We don't even, some people don't need a boot camp. And that's often you hear from those people online who are like, oh, I would never do a boot camp. They're complete scams and wastes of money. Like, why would
mhm,
you ever do that? That's,
mhm.
you're an idiot if you do that. And it's like, well, for you, that's true. That is your truth because you were able to do it without any help whatsoever. Good on you. If you can do that, great. Don't invest in a
Yeah.
program because you might not need it. For most of the people that, again, I've been doing this for a long time, most people are silently suffering, going like, I can't do this. This is really, and what they need is they need help. They need guidance. They need accountability. They need one-on-one help. They need a community. They need to be able to get help quickly. They need, and
Yeah.
then once they start to get those successes and stack those successes up, then it's like, oh, maybe I can do this. And then that turns into, oh, yeah, I definitely can do this. And then that turns into, oh, look, I am doing this. I have a job doing this, right? So you just need that. Most people need that kind of help. And that comes from programs like, yeah, from boot camps, sure. But don't just listen to me if I'm some stranger on the internet that you met just recently and you're listening to this because you found it through a search and, oh, this Trevor guy seems like he's a cool dude. I should just join his program. No, go Google, look at reviews, talk to students, past students for the programs if you can.
Yeah.
Go through, do what Jeff did. Get on the phone with them, talk to do their sales process, get a feel for it. Like that is, if you want to be thorough, I don't think you could be more thorough than what you did, Jeff. You spent like a year preparing for it, doing all the free stuff, all the like prep courses, and like that's good. That makes me feel like, okay, good. You've done your research, you know what's out there. Now you can do the thing confidently that, okay, I feel like this is the right choice and great. And it matches with you. Fantastic. Because the worst
Well,
part is
I
the other way
mean,
around.
it's wild because it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit like an Outward Bound course, company I work for. It's
Hmm?
like nobody can prepare you 22 days in the wilderness with like 9
Sorry,
strangers.
22?
22, like
That's a
3
long
weeks.
time. 3
3 weeks, like
weeks.
we don't go inside.
There's
There's
no
no
showers.
indoor.
There's no like,
We just jump in lakes.
wow.
We
Yeah.
just and it's like, this student signs up and has no idea what they're about to get into. And it's
That's
like
nuts.
it's the same thing with choosing a boot camp in my mind. It's
Mhm.
like you're going to do as much research as you can. You're going to try and find the best, the one that works for you. Like,
Mhm.
but like you, at least for me, at least, on getting towards the end of like the assignment work actually is like, there's no way I could have understood what was going to happen in the boot
Mm.
camp. And I'm pretty sure that's probably true for all the boot camps. Is like, you don't really know what you're going to walk into until you're like in the middle of it. And like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And so I feel like, I don't know, I just draw the metaphor of like, yeah, you can do all your research, but like be prepared that like whatever you're going to experience is not what you probably thought you were going to experience.
Yeah. You can probably count on it being hard. You can
Yeah.
count on it taking a long time. Well, I say that. So I was just speaking to a student yesterday who is in the same place you are, and he was talking about how he felt like everyone else was doing better than him, and he was really downplaying. And I was like, oh, he must be. And so I asked him. I said, so how long? So you're almost he's almost finished. And I said, so how long? Like when did you join? And he said November. And I said, what? That's been like December, January, Feb, barely Feb. That's like 2 months. 2 months, and you're almost done. Like, what are you talking about? Like, anyway. So, how long ago did you join, Jeff? I don't even know.
I think him and I actually were in the same
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
November
Okay.
6th. I just hit 3 months. What is that?
Okay.
November, yeah, just hit
So
3 months. So,
what magic is Pete spinning out there that you guys have gone so fast? Like, what?
well, I mean, I feel like I'm fortunate enough that I was prepared to do like a full-time immersive boot camp, and I'm
Okay,
basically, to be honest, I'm doing
you're treating it like
this
that.
boot camp at like a full-time pace.
Gotcha.
And so I'm committing a lot of time. Like you say,
Okay.
like 15 hours, but I'm really doing more like 30 hours
Okay.
kind of a
Beautiful.
week. And yeah, it's been awesome. And definitely like some of the stuff has been like, I need to go watch those things again, or I need to like spend some time with this like on Google and just like searching around trying to understand some more of this. But yeah, I just hit the 3 month mark. But I think actually what I'm looking forward to is like I'm looking forward to, I will be learning, but I'm not necessarily in the structured lesson learning. I'm a little bit more in the like meetings and like
Right.
how I'm applying the learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to spend more time becoming familiar with that, like applying the learnings that I've been learning to the projects that we're working on in the meetings,
Yeah.
which I think is just like such a great complementary thing of like, oh, cool. I actually see the thing I learned. We're talking about it tonight
Yeah.
in this thing. And I'm like seeing how it applies in like a real application. This is
Yep.
awesome. So,
Yeah. And you're going to see that when you get into the real world. I again, if people have heard me say this over and over, I apologize, but I've heard over and over again, people go out into the real world and have their first, job and their first task or whatever, first project. And they're like, oh, like this is exactly what I did on assignment 13 or assignment 7 or whatever it is, right? And I'm like, I know that's not an accident. Like that's
yeah.
I've been doing this for a long time. I know exactly how software is made. I've gone through, I don't know how many organizations I've worked for in different verticals and industries, and like I've seen how what's the expression? How the what is made. I've seen how the bread is made. What's how the
Sure.
what what is the oh, my brain. How old are you now?
34.
34. Okay, your brain might not be doing. I'm now that I'm 40. It's like seeing how the sausage is made. Okay, that's
Okay.
the one I think. Anyway,
Seems like you can just use any food you want.
well, it's I suppose. Now I've seen how the sausage is made. Anyway, I know how it's done. So I've structured the program that
Yeah.
way. And I'm going to go off on a tangent, and this is
Sure.
maybe not the most useful tangent, but it's worth saying. I've had students say, well, I look into your program, but it's not accredited. Like you're not accredited, therefore I'm going to dismiss you. And it's like, well, if we could seek to be accredited without with our government the way it runs here in Canada, they would have me change the curriculum to meet their guidelines, and
Mm-hmm.
the ways that they need me to change it do not
Mm.
reflect what's actually helpful in the real world,
Hmm.
right? They want to mold you to be more like a typical university experience,
Sure.
which again, I'm sorry, I've said this so many times. This time I'll be brief. I did university. I did 4 years of computer science. I came out the other end completely unprepared, had never built a full stack app in my entire life, didn't even know what full stack meant because you just learn a little bit about everything, but it's completely disjointed and you never put it together. And
Yeah.
it was awful. And it's like, and that's how they want me to change the program to be. And it's like, so what are we solving for? Are we
Yeah.
solving for the
Yeah.
government saying, thumbs up, or are we solving for I have a job and I'm getting paid to do this,
Hmm.
right? Because I'm useful to this company. So
No, I
yeah,
think I think that's another thing I feel like that drew me to coding is that, I don't know, at least in my mind, I'm viewing it a little bit more like a trade skill,
yeah,
right?
sure,
Like I'm learning a trade kind of like, sure,
yeah,
you can learn welding. That's like a skill, a trade. But not, no, I'm learning this trade skill of computer coding
yeah,
in these languages in like this tech stack.
exactly.
And like that's cool. In my mind, it's like, yeah, I mean I work construction this summer in between kind of like starting this and leaving my last job, and
Mhm.
I knew nothing about construction, but I like learned whatever these parts and pieces of a house or how to put these things together, and I'm viewing coding in a similar way. It's like
Yeah,
I'm learning how all these pieces are fitting together. I may not be able to see the whole house yet, but I'm learning the little pieces that are fitting together, and I'm learning this skill that will be directly applicable to the companies that I'm trying to,
exactly.
instead of the theory, all the like stuff up here,
It's
I don't
nice.
really know.
Yeah,
It's cool. It'd be cool to understand that, but
yeah.
like over time, I'm sure I'll pick that up.
Mhm.
But right now, I'm learning the direct trade skill, and that's what I
Right.
kind of like about it.
Yeah,
So
with university, you'll definitely learn things like the big O notation. I don't talk about the big O notation in the book. Have you ever come across this the
yeah,
terminology before?
I've watched a couple random videos on it. Like I've
Okay,
seen it brought up in like posts on Stack Overflow
sure.
or all those things, and I'm kind of like I kind of don't get it, but it's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It'll
It's
it'll come.
it's there's stuff like that where it's very theory based, and it's can get pretty heavy into some math. Like you need to understand. Oh gosh, and just to show you how unimportant complex math is in the real world. I don't even remember like the different uh like the polynomial growth or there's exponential growth, but then there's like logarithm. Anyway, I don't even remember anymore all the different and it's about your algorithm that you are writing, the code that you write, and how efficient or not efficient is it. There's a way to objectively say on paper how efficient or not efficient your code is, or
Mm-hmm.
inefficient your code is.
Sure.
Both in the manner of speaking in terms of a computer, the CPU, like how much raw horsepower you would need for your algorithm to complete the task, versus or not versus, and also including how much hard drive space you'll need, how much memory you'll need to accomplish the same task. So if you have
Mm-hmm.
something that you've written that's code that is very CPU intensive and will take forever to come to a completion, and it
Mm-hmm.
takes up a ton of memory, like that's bad. You want those both to
Sure.
be low, right? You want to have your code be fast and not take up a lot of memory. However, to do that, that's where genius comes. That's where true
Sure.
genius comes in,
Yeah.
and that's expensive. Both, well, it's expensive in terms of the man hours that are required or people hours that are required to come up with the right algorithm to solve that problem. Like that's expensive because you're paying a salary for those people to spin their wheels trying to come up with this thing that, but really in the real world is probably more like it's moderately fast and moderately space intensive. So and then it gets the job done and you can do
Yeah.
it in an afternoon. Right? You can
Sure.
write the algorithm in an afternoon and it'll get you to here, or you can spend the next year getting it to here. And it's like, is that really is it the juice worth
Mm-hmm.
the squeeze? So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
big O notation is all about objectively putting on paper, how efficient or not efficient is your code.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we don't go into that because it's like,
Yeah.
it's as long as it's good enough, you're gonna get a job and you're gonna be just fine. Because I've never worked with people. First, I've never worked with people who can get it down to super super crazy efficient, and I've never had to because the organization is like, dude, it's due on Friday. Get it done. It's
Yeah.
okay, then I can't make it this efficient, right? If it
Yeah.
was due a year from now, then sure, I could. So, okay, there's a tangent. So, cool. So we talked a little bit about your boot camp experience. It sounds like you liked it. I like to ask, well, what didn't you like about it? What didn't go well? What didn't meet your expectations? Feel free to get into the weeds of how I can improve the program.
Yeah. I think just for like an overview, it's like, you're in the first, within the first 5 assignments, and you're a part of like the foundations group of
Don't say
students,
the
right?
same thing Ben said. Ben
Right.
said this. Yeah.
You're in the foundations group, and then you make this jump
Yeah.
from, you get assignment 5 and you make this jump into like the full stack
Yeah.
group, and that's kind of how at least that's how I view it with my background, like the educational structure of the boot camp is. Um, and I appreciated early on how there's a lot of little exercises in between in
Okay.
between the assignments.
Hmm.
I was like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna look at this bite-sized piece of like if present. I'm just gonna
Sure.
do a little exercise on if present. And as the boot camp kind of goes on post assignment 5,
Hmm.
the exercises they kind of go away.
They do. Yeah.
Um, and I think, like for right now, it's like controllers, like building a controller is still a little bit like, what is going on there?
Okay.
Like,
Nice.
what model dot put user, what the,
Yeah. Yeah.
and sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish there was like few little bit more exercise sprinkled in
Okay. Hmm.
post assignment 5. That's great to kind of just like at least drive home something you write all the time, like a
That's
get
good.
mapping or post mapping. It's like, oh, I'm going to do that so many times.
Hmm.
Um, and
That's
that's
good
like one of
feedback.
the things.
I like that. That makes perfect sense to me that we should have more of those, right? I focused on in the foundations. It's so important, right? That's you make it or break it in foundations, um, and we really went hard there to make sure we get it to stick, right? And then we definitely got way more lax as the. But you're right. We can definitely throw some of those in there. That's good feedback.
I mean, and yeah, and then it's really hard for me right now to understand like, if the topics covered, like multi-threading or like streams or like all these kind of topics that we cover and then we do these assignments and then they're kind of like,
Should
where
you
do
do
these
them?
fit in? Like, are
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
use these or are we not?
Yep.
And so I wonder, like, at least some of the videos, some of the lessons kind of towards the end of kind of the end of Java
Hmm.
got like a little bit like marathon-y. And I was
Hmm.
like, whoa, this is like a 40-minute video. And I'm just like,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what's
That's
gonna
I.
happen here? And
Yeah.
I feel like there might have been a spot where you were like, okay, we gotta like these are the things we gotta cover, and we're
Yeah.
getting close to the end. So
Yeah.
like we're just gonna cover them. And if the person needs to figure out about it, they're just gonna look it up on Google like you would do in the real world, and you'll
Hmm.
figure it out.
True, there is an aspect of that to the design of the program because you're not always going to have me there, right? Well, I shouldn't necessarily. When you graduate, you get into the bootcamp alumni channel. I don't know if you know that of its existence. You get put into an alumni channel and you have access to me pretty much forever. That's sort of the way we've set it up. The activity in that channel is not crazy high, so I'm able
Sure.
to always give my feedback when it comes up. So you kind of will have access to me afterwards, but let's say hypothetically speaking that didn't exist. You don't have access to me forever, so you need to be able to figure it out on your own. So there is an aspect of, look, I'm going to treat you like big boys and big girls, and you can figure it out yourself with some guidance from me. However, there's a balance there of you don't want it to be too frustrating an experience. So,
I
but
mean,
you're
it
right.
is
The
what it is.
videos,
It
yeah,
is what it is.
the videos got long at the end. I definitely, yeah, which I'm now, so now I'm getting better at that with creating shorter, pack. Like I've received that feedback so many times. But I do need to, I need to revamp the videos in the boot camp, and I'm slowly doing it. Like where there's the most complaining, I'll start there. So
Sure.
it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease
Yeah.
type thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
feel free to be a squeaky wheel with the next one wherever it is. So
yeah. No,
I'd
no.
like to,
I think in general though, the videos, 10 to 20 minutes is generally what you get. And
yeah,
I think that's like a good
yeah,
bite-sized piece. And even just watching you like, oh, I swear I was this way. Like
yeah,
whatever.
struggling.
A couple things ago was like talking about setting the database tables to like drop or create drop or
Right.
update.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah,
I swear create drop does this, but I don't, I guess I don't know. And
yeah,
just being okay to like the fact that you admit that you don't know or that you go to Google with us there. You don't like pause the video,
yeah,
go find
yeah.
it, start it again, and be like, here's how you do it. It's refreshing to be like, oh, this is how it's gonna be. This is
This is how it's
actually how
going
it's
to
gonna
be.
be. You're gonna get stuck.
Absolutely.
You're gonna Google. You're gonna like ask some people. You're gonna try to figure it out.
Yeah.
So
That's literally how the real world is. There's no world where a programmer just sits down in isolation, doesn't talk to anyone, and just goes from start to finish and done. Like you need collaboration, you need help, you need Google, you need now Chat GPT is an amazing resource, and like so yeah, that's just how software gets created. Um, cool. So that's excellent feedback. So more exercises is totally makes sense, and yeah, shorter videos, where appropriate, makes total
sure.
sense. Um, that's more of a time thing for me.
Yeah.
If I were to, this is just curiosity. If I'm because I'm so limited with my time running this organization now. I have, almost 20 employees now that work with me under this umbrella of this
Yeah.
company. So I'm getting more and more removed from being able to sit down and do stuff like I love this stuff, right? This
Mhm.
is what I love to do: create content, talk to students, create podcast episodes,
Mhm.
sit down, actually do more coding, and like I just don't get as much opportunity to do that. So I was considering hiring someone to revamp the videos for me, but then I was like, I don't know if that's going to ruin it. Like if it was someone else, all of a sudden, like what's your thought if all of a sudden there's some stranger like, hey, Trevor brought me in to, or would it be like heartbreaking and be like, I don't want to listen to this guy or girl?
Well, I mean, I was actually, I don't know what I was thinking about. I saw that you have like the React course that's also like a part you have
Mm-hmm.
like in the thing, and I was like, oh, I wonder who teaches that. And I was like, maybe it's somebody else. And then in my head, I was like, that actually might be kind of cool to like
Okay, good.
listen to somebody else talk for a little
Okay,
bit.
yeah.
Because it's the amount of times I've like paused the video and been like, what the heck, Trevor? What are you just like out loud to
Yeah, I
myself?
get that all the time.
What are
Yeah.
you talking about,
What are you
Trevor?
talking about, Trevor? Yeah.
And I think it's like it's funny because you're like this ever present being in these like
Yeah.
pre-recorded videos, so you can
Yeah.
like direct your frustration at this like hypothetical person on the
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
um but yeah, I think it might be as long as it's not like the whole boot camp, but like videos
Yeah.
here
No,
and
it
there,
wouldn't.
it's like, and
Yeah.
it's if they have similar amount of experience. To me, I
Okay.
come down to that, like, well, what's their experience? What's their
Mm-hmm.
experience in industry? How they use the things? Can they cite examples, like kind of like you do in your
Okay.
videos, like, oh, I've used this here and here, or in my career here and here, and
Sure. Okay.
um,
Nice.
I think
I have
that
to
would be
find someone
fine.
similar. Okay. Good. Yeah, because I've been toying with that. That's the easy solution. It's just, I'll hire someone else to do it for me. But then I'm like, I don't want to ruin the experience. So yeah. Okay, good feedback. So I know we're getting close to the time we set aside, so I want to try to be on time. So let's look towards the future now. So and we can
Okay.
come back and touch on some things if there's stuff that you hadn't talked about that you wanted to. I'll leave the end for that. But let's look forward. So what is your first? Are you in a good spot for understanding what needs to happen to get the job? So are you well prepared for the next journey, which is the job search journey? Are you prepared for it? What have you done for that so far? I'm interested to hear.
Yeah, I feel like I've really worked closely with whatever David Roberts and Crushing Digital, like the
Mhm.
career person. And honestly, like within the first couple weeks of starting, I was like, I need to watch these videos and I need to like understand what the strategy is here, because I feel
Yep.
like I got to start now.
Mhm.
It's not like I finish my boot camp and then I start. I feel like it's like I got to start right when the boot camp starts. Like this is also a part of the like learning process of like I got to figure out how to make myself. I mean, it's like such an imposter syndrome thing, but like recreating your identity is really hard.
Mhm.
Like my identity was like backpacking instructor and guide and like program director. There's nothing to do with computer coding.
Yep.
Um, so, anyways, spending time with David and like sending my LinkedIn, sending my resume to him, and just like having him like, you need to change this, you need to change that, you need to change this, and just like getting it to a spot where it's like, hey, this is good right now. Like you're in a
Good.
good spot right now has been really eye opening. Even just like learning about the industry and how jobs work in the industry has been like hugely eye opening.
Good.
And so I don't know. I feel like, I mean, I still feel very like, do I actually know what's going on? Kind of question myself. Like, I feel like I have no idea what's going on 3 months into this, and I like
Pretty
have
quick.
this
Yeah.
LinkedIn that like says I am this thing, and I'm questioning myself, like, am I actually this thing? Like, if I get into an interview and somebody asks me these questions, will I actually know what to answer?
Mhm.
And I guess I just got to go do it and see what happens.
Well, we will do a mock interview. I don't know if that. So
Oh,
when you
no,
do
yeah, yeah.
graduate, I don't do a good
Okay.
enough job at this part. I spend so much time on let me get these people to graduate. Let me focus on graduation, and I completely drop the ball on the next step, which is here's all the stuff we will do after you graduate. That
Mhm.
is a step. We're gonna hop on a call together. I'm gonna grill you. You're probably gonna do absolutely terribly and feel like you're completely unprepared. That's exactly what I want to come out of that conversation. I
Yeah.
don't want you thinking, oh, I'm completely prepared and I'm gonna be the best thing since whatever sliced bread. I want you to panic a little bit and realize that I need to do some of this stuff and then do some of that stuff. And then that way, when you get into the interview, it's going to probably feel well, hopefully a little bit less panicky. You'll probably still be panicked. It's
Sure.
pretty normal, well, at least normal for me. I always panic. Even I'll interview for jobs I absolutely don't need, and I just want to like get out into the real world and do a bit more coding again because I just love it.
Yeah.
And but I'll still panic on the interview, right? I'll be like, oh my gosh, I don't remember, and then, like I don't.
Yeah.
So there's no stakes for me in an interview, and I still panic when there's no stakes.
Yeah.
I don't need the job, I don't need the salary, I don't need that, and I still panic. So you'll probably panic, and that's okay. Um,
Definitely.
so we'll do that. We'll prepare, and so don't worry about that. The to address the is this really me? Of course you feel that way. Like it's been 3 months, dude. Like yeah, of course you're gonna feel
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
is this really me? And the stuff that David prepares you for and has you tweak for is like the search algorithm, right? Like when people are searching to have potentially interview people to hire them, they're going to be looking for these keywords that you probably put into your LinkedIn, and
Definitely.
there's a reason why they're there,
Yeah.
and you will grow into that. I mean, you're gonna be, once you graduate from the program and you've gone through the steps, yeah, you're going to be prepared for an entry level position. You are going to be able to call yourself ready for entry level full stack developer. Like, maybe throw a bit more React in there to feel. I don't know if you're doing those as well. With Are you doing those client side stuff with?
I haven't been able to make it to
Okay,
the client side things, but
that's okay. Yeah,
definitely like on like I feel like when I'm working on
I mean
final
you're
project things, I like
you're
want to.
barely 3 months in, so
I know.
yeah,
I feel like I still have a lot of time here.
you've
We
still
got some
got
time.
plenty of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would throw in a bit of the client side stuff eventually. And But then yeah, dude, you're ready. Like that's what an entry level developer is someone who understands the fundamentals, who can learn on their own if needed, and understands how to work in a team, right? So if you're doing the meetings now, like you were talking about in the full stack meetings, which is where you guys are creating a project as a group from scratch and like building it out. If you're seeing that and seeing the software being made and can follow along with some of that stuff, like that's how the sausage is made. That's how real apps are made. We use GitHub, and we have GitHub issues, and we do pull requests, and we like, if you're nodding your head like all these things, it's like,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
know this stuff, Jeff. I didn't I didn't know that when I
Yeah.
started my first job.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was a difference between and you may or may not know this, but I didn't know there's a difference between a dev environment and a production environment. I don't know if have you guys talked about those?
Yeah. I'm like, I feel like from your videos, I've kind of gleaned that, and it's become a little bit more familiar of like, oh, we have this issue, we push into dev, and then we like every so often release it into the world,
Right.
and it's
Dev
like
is not
dev
live into the
never gets
world.
released, but like the next, we push it out there, and then we edit these other things
Yeah,
into the dev branch, and
exactly. I
yeah.
didn't know that. Right. And on my first job, and again, I'm sorry, I've told this story so many times. My first job, I fixed a bug on my machine and I thought it was good. And I went to deploy it to the next step. And I thought I didn't know there was a drop down with environments, and it said dev, QA, there was something called UAT, and there was something called prod. And I was like, I don't know, I'm just gonna pick one. So I picked prod and I said deploy. And at that point, it went to a team of people who then saw some dude's name that they'd never seen before, like Trevor Page. Who is this? I don't know this guy. And he's pushing directly to prod, and there's no history. Like, red flag. And then I got a talking to, and I was like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that like prod meant live, and like I didn't even know there was a QA environment anyway. So, God, I was so unprepared. So, picture
Glad we're learning
yourself.
that stuff.
Picture yourself at the end of this boot camp, and compare yourself to the Trevor who had a 4-year computer science degree and was completely unprepared. So anyway, you'll be in a good spot. So yeah, I want to make sure. So do you have to go now? Are you good? Or
I just have a full stack meeting at 10:30.
okay, so yeah, we can go a
I
little bit
have a few more
over, but I want to
minutes if
be
that's cool.
I want to respect your time. So yes, to address what you said, I mean, you're 3 months in. It's totally fine for you to feel like, I don't know if am I really that guy? You will be for sure. Once you get out this program, you will be. So the next expectation is that you understand how to apply for jobs. Have you heard me on this soapbox before talking about how to apply and how not to apply to jobs?
Only am kind of familiar with kind of like David's approach of like, you know, start networking.
Yep.
However that looks, whether it's like a meetup in your local area or like via LinkedIn, whatever like works for you.
Mhm.
And then kind of like, he called it like the seed. Find the person that you're networking with and like build the relationship.
Mhm.
And then like he was talking about just kind of emailing the like hello at whatever company email, just like with a blurb, who you are, link to your LinkedIn, link to your GitHub, can attach your resume, like
Yep.
make it easy for that person to see who you are. Like I imagine myself checking an email, like, yeah, who's this? Oh, LinkedIn, I'm just gonna glance real quick.
Yep.
Like I would do that in my program director role. Like, oh, I'm just gonna quickly look at this link, quickly look at that link, and then I'm gonna
Mhm.
move on to my next thing. But at least it's got like filed away. Oh yeah, I got an email from this person. Um, but yeah, that's kind of all I understand. I'm only at the point of poking around, trying to
Okay.
understand job descriptions. It's just like, what is going on here?
Remember, job descriptions are like for the ideal candidate who doesn't exist. They never, I don't want to say they never exist, but the requirements that they put on there are ridiculous, and they don't get any better either. As you go up the ranks in the senior levels, the demands that they have, it's like I don't have this. Like I don't. I've been working like I've been devoting myself to software for 15 years, and I don't understand half of the stuff that they're asking for. And it's like, but I'm still a good candidate for the job. They would still hire me. It's
Sure.
just so yeah. Don't get too worried about. Look at all these requirements. I don't meet it. Like they want me to have 15 years of experience. Well, maybe not 15, but when they say you need 2 years, that's like ideally they need 2 years. You
Yeah.
probably can get away with zero.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to. So to address, there's two things I want to address from what you just said. I'll start with the second thing first, which was email the hello address, the hello at whatever, or fill out their form where the contact us form.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but don't do that once. Do that again and again and again and again until you get a response, right?
Mm.
And I always recommend, do it the first time you do it, cool, that's day one. Then wait a day and then do it again. And then wait 2 days and do it again. Wait 3 days, do it again. Wait 4 days, do it again. Wait 5 days, do it again, etc., etc. Again, 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 until you finally get a response of either, for the love of God, Jeff, go away, stop, or they say, we don't have this position, we don't have this role. And then you still don't give up. You say, cool, is there ever going to be a role for this? Or could I maybe fit into a slightly different role that you guys need? Like, how can I have these skills, maybe I can still be of use to you, right? Just because I don't fit this one little box doesn't mean that I can fit a box slightly adjacent to it for like, in other words, maybe it's not an entry level dev role with this stack, but maybe it's half entry level dev and half like QA. I don't know, right? You can sort of get creative with it depending on what you want. So don't just take that as being I'm going to give up.
Mm-hmm.
The only time you should give up is if they say no, like we are absolutely not interested. Stop emailing us back. Cool,
Mm-hmm.
I will respect but don't be afraid to be pushy
Sure.
and to keep emailing them. And it's going to feel weird. It's going to feel like
Yeah.
you're being annoying. But I
Yeah.
promise you, as soon as you start to become annoying in any way, shape, or form, they'll let you know. And
Mm-hmm.
then, cool, now I know. The vast majority of the time, it gets missed in the inbox. Someone may click on it and then get distracted with something else. Like, don't assume that silence means no, because silence probably just means no one's seen it yet, right? Or no one's even considered to look at it yet. So, yeah, if there's one thing I want to drill into every student's brain, because I sit on the other side of the chair or the whatever table or whatever you want to say, whatever expression. I get incoming messages all the time. I can look at my inbox right now and probably find someone reaching out to me from some company trying to, like this guy right here. Well, I don't want to say his name, but this guy, yeah, reached out and said, pitched me on something that he can provide to me in my company, and
Sure.
that was that was at 4:48 a.m. I scrolled quite a bit, but that was literally this morning. I got a message from someone
Yeah.
and I've dismissed it. I'm not.
Yeah,
I don't
totally.
have time to deal with that right now. So,
Yeah.
The expression is the fortune is in the follow up, right? Fortune is in the follow up. Keep following up. Don't assume that silence means no. Silence just means not yet, or I don't have time, or I haven't seen it yet, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, that's the second thing I wanted to say.
That's
The
helpful.
first thing, you said networking. Any thoughts on networking? Any names or people come up to mind that you could reach out to, like immediately, that I heard from
mean,
this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, there's just like, well, I mean, the people I am in school with or in the program with are like
Okay, sure.
they're like my
True.
coworkers
Yeah,
essentially. But yeah,
cool.
and then there's instructors, yourself, like there's just people that are connected in the
I
network.
heard two
So
you specifically mentioned.
you,
No, so that's
what?
this is great, right? So to me, because here's what it is. To me, it's completely obvious, but to the students, it might not be. And that's why we have these conversations, and hopefully the gold comes from there. You said you know two people who did boot camps before you that you watch them do the thing, and you
Mm,
have some sort of like you have some sort of connection with those two
mm,
people, and
yeah,
now they're working in the industry.
yeah, they are. Yeah,
Can you send them a message?
I mean, it's on my plan. It's on my plan for
Okay,
sure.
good. All right. So you know that again, obvious to me. Sometimes it might not be obvious to others. So that's a perfect way to do it, right?
Mhm.
Those connections are going to be gold. If the more of those you can have, that like because they know you, maybe they've worked with you before, they know your because I've said this all the time. Half of the battle is your skills in terms of your hard skill, your technical skills, your ability to know how to program, right?
Yeah,
And you don't need to get all of it. You don't need to be 100% of the 50% to get a job offer, right? You can have 35% of the 50% and get a job offer, but you also need the other 50% or some of the 50%, which is your ability to be a good human being, a good worker, a good team player, all the cheesy corporate terms that you hear. There's a
yeah,
reason why you hear him all the time, right? Is he a team player? Is he a go-getter? Is he, can he, like, these are cheesy words, but they're, again, me sitting on the other side of the table or whatever, being the person who runs the business with 20 people working for him, I want a go-getter, right? I want someone who can work independently and think for themselves before they reach out and beg for help, right? I want someone who is a team player who's not going to, I'm going to hear complaints about, this one person. And like, that's very important to me, and I'm the person who makes the hiring decisions, right?
yeah,
So don't discount that other 50% of I work well in a team, I'm a go-getter, I'm an independent thinker, I'm a whatever, like all those cheesy things, like that means a lot to organizations who will hire, especially big organizations. The bigger they are, the cheesier they are with this stuff. Like, are they a good culture fit? Do they
sure.
do they match up with our mission statement?
Yeah,
Right? It's
we're a
like
mission-driven
we're a
organization.
mission driven or
Yeah,
they probably are. The leadership team
for sure.
believes that stuff, right?
Oh yeah,
So yeah, as much as I don't want to say low level employees don't believe it. And again, I was in that position too. I thought it was all silly, and but now as I'm building a team, it's like, yeah, that stuff actually kind of matters. So anyway, don't get too bogged down with the first 50%, which is trying to become the best program entry level program that's ever existed. Because you can be the best entry level programmer ever, but if you're terrible to work with and you're a terrible team player and you constantly ask for help and you're not an independent thinker, and like no one's going to hire you, right? You need
yeah,
to. So there's a balance of both of those things that need to happen.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I'm
so
really hoping my previous experience
exactly,
helps me,
yeah,
but it's just like taking this thing and trying to turn it into the thing that the employers want to know
mm-hmm.
about.
Yeah,
So that's kind of where I'm at.
exactly. And so the point I was driving at was those two people might know a little bit about your personality. Maybe they know that you are a go-getter or this or that or whatever. Like
Hmm.
that might fit the culture of the place that they work for, or the culture of a place that their friend works for,
Yeah,
right? Because you could also be connected to their network. Like that's where it becomes very impactful. It's like, well,
yeah,
let's say you're the guy's name that his name's Tom or something. I don't know. Tom is working for some organization that you know and knows you, and but Tom, the organization he's working for, is not hiring. But maybe Tom has a friend that is they
yeah.
are hiring, and this friend can get money for referring you, right?
Hmm.
There's referral fees.
Hmm.
Employees, when they make referrals to get other employees hired, that
Hmm.
employee gets paid money usually, right? Because it costs a lot of money to hire good talent, good
Yeah.
workers. So if they don't have to pay if they can just pay their own employee, they can usually pay a small sum, relatively speaking, to the
Sure.
organization.
Hmm.
So like I was paid, if I brought a team member in, I was paid $6,000,
Whoa.
right? Which to Jeff and
I mean,
Trevor, $6,000 sounds good. To a
yeah,
corporation making millions and millions, or tens of millions, or hundreds of millions, $6,000 is nothing. six
sure.
thousand bucks is like 60 cents to
Yeah.
that corporation. So let me toss Jeff 60 cents to, and save me $100,000 of hiring fees with going, so
Yeah.
yeah, referrals are big. So that's why networking is big. So yeah, definitely those two people, or however many people it was that know you, who did this journey already, super valuable. So definitely reach out to those people,
Yeah,
or
that's good to know.
anyone else you can think of, like your anyone in your family. Does anyone in your family, both either direct or indirect, extended family, do anyone work for an organization that has some software development portion to that company? It's
Hmm.
like, oh wait, my cousin
Yeah.
works for whatever, and they have a software team. I should talk to
Yeah.
my cousin, right? Because then
Yeah.
your cousin might get paid to hire you, right? Or to get you
Yeah.
hired. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the sort of mindset you need to get into with this whole networking thing. Because networking is such a weird, it doesn't mean anything, but that's what networking is. Who do I know? And
Yeah.
do they work for a company that does software development? Maybe I should work for them too. Because once you get that first job, you work for about 12 months in that first job, it's so much easier to go everywhere else. Like
Yeah.
once you have 5 years of experience, it's just like, oh, it's so easy to get another job. Now, whether or not you get another job that pays you even more money than the one that, then that's always maybe, hopefully that's
Sure.
doable. You
Yeah.
always want to try to make more money if you can, if that's important to you. But always being able to get a job is it's so much easier. Okay, sorry, I get off on these tangents. I love talking about this stuff. Um, so uh, good. It sounds like we talked about expectations for job search. What you should not do is just click apply, fill out their form, submit the form, and then say, I'm done. I've done it. I've applied to a job today. I feel like I've done a good hard day's work. Let me go on and move to the next one. No, that's a waste of time, right? You
Mhm.
have to follow up then. You have to figure
Yeah.
out how to get in contact with. So don't just apply to a job and walk away. Your job's not done, right?
Yeah.
Put it in a spreadsheet, plan out all the follow-ups from now
Yep.
until infinity, until they
Hmm.
say, Jeff, stop talking to us, or okay, fine, come in and talk to. I see that you're clearly a go-getter. You want this job. I see that you're interested. So anyway, good. Questions, thoughts about that before we?
No, that all makes sense. It's
Good.
mostly just the execution. You gotta
Yeah.
really, I feel like you gotta execute.
Mhm.
Is I feel like
And I'm working.
putting yourself out there is like
Yeah.
at least even with posting on LinkedIn, I'm just like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like, okay,
Yeah.
here we go. I gotta do this thing to
Mhm.
make this other thing happen. So I'm just gonna do it, kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah. Most people don't like, and that's marketing, right? When you
Yeah.
post on LinkedIn, that's literally what marketing is.
Yep.
You're one person. You're broadcasting a message to many people, talking about something that could hopefully be interesting to someone else. So you're marketing, which is not an innate skill for most people. So that's good that you're doing it and pushing through it. Um, okay, so is there anything else that we haven't talked about yet that you want to talk about or touch on? Um, yeah, anything that we've missed?
No, I think so. I don't think so. I mean, I'm kind of like you, where I could talk for a long time,
Right
and
about, yeah,
we're
yeah,
like, I feel like we did pretty good.
yeah. I think we covered most of the bases. So sometimes I like to end with, I say sometimes, the last interview I did, I ended with, okay, let's go back 3 months or whatever or even 12 months to the Jeff, a year younger. And is there anything that you could say to that Jeff that would have been really helpful for him to hear at the time? I know you mentioned there's nothing really you can really do to get prepared. Once you get into it, it's like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know that it was going to look like this. But is there any other, like, that's a good little tidbit that someone listening could think, okay, I can be as prepared as I possibly can be, but I'll truly never be able to be 100% prepared for what is about to happen. Any other little nuggets like that you can give as advice to someone, to your old self, or obviously to someone listening or watching this, that might be in the same position you were 12 months ago?
Yeah, I think I was surprised almost. Like at some point in the last couple of months, I realized like, oh, I'm not changing my whole identity, but I'm changing like a part of an identity, or I'm like creating a new part of my identity. And just kind of like when you do that, whether it's starting a new job or like going into a boot camp and like trying to make a career change, there's like a lot of doubt in yourself. And there's a lot of like moments where you're like, am I gonna be able to do this or not? And almost like this part of like self belief. Like, yeah, you got to believe in yourself. And like at least for me, I reach out to people and just kind of share that and like try to find the support system within the people that know me. Because
Hmm.
I can get support from the instructors and my fellow
Sure.
students, but like people that really know me kind of understand what I'm going through. So I feel like that it's like, yeah, you are going to recreate a part or create a new part of who you are, and you are going to have to like try to figure out how to own that part
Hmm.
and look for support as you're like, as you're changing, as you're like changing and growing, like look for support in the places that you have it. And hopefully you can find people that support you in that and are like excited that you are making a change or that you
Hmm.
are trying to do something different. So,
It's really it's I was listening to that, and that's literally what I had to go through when I quit my job, full-time job as a coder, whatever, 11 years ago, to pursue this, the one I'm doing now. Like,
yeah.
there were people in my life who, I don't want to say they doubted me, but there's people in my life who were like, what are you doing? Like, that's a terrible idea. You want to take your programming job, your cushy programming job where you make, 6 figures and you're have job security. You want to throw it all away and now do this thing that, like, there's no guarantee it's going to work. So, God, like, that sucked. That was hard to hear people who I was close with that felt that way. People that I called my friends. So, but thankfully, my, then girlfriend, now wife, was very supportive. So that was nice to have that that support, because you're going to doubt yourself, right? You're going to doubt yourself, and hopefully you have someone in your life that believes in you more than you believe in yourself. That can,
Yeah. I mean,
you know,
just the number of nights I finish like the day or like finish
yeah.
working on an assignment and I'm like super frustrated and I just
Mhm.
like go to my wife and I'm like, what am I doing? I hope
Yeah.
this works. Is just, yeah, just like ups and downs. Like,
Yeah.
I did so good on that assignment. I got a great review. And like, oh my God, what am I doing? Why am I
Yeah.
doing this? I hope I get a job. I don't even know.
Right.
That's just the way it goes, I think. So
Yeah.
finding the person that believes in you or the group of people that believes in you, or at least
Hmm.
can pretend like they believe in you
Hmm.
is like
Sure. Okay.
amazing. Even if
Yeah.
they don't really, it's just like
That's good.
supporting you in what you're doing
Hmm.
is going to go a long way because it's hard to be an island when you're like
Yeah.
trying to change part of your identity.
Yeah. So much of this journey is being able to tough out the hard parts, like to be able to push through those, which is so cheesy to say, right? You got to push through the hard bits. But it's true, because the people who don't make it are the ones who are like who drop out at assignment 2, and they're like, oh man, this is much harder than I thought, and there's no one's there to support them maybe. And we try to do our best to reach out and be proactive and try to encourage and build confidence as much as we can. But if you don't have that coming from the outside or from your world, it's so much easier to say, yeah, I'm out, right? And
Yeah.
that's how that is the guaranteed way to fail, right? And then, hey, if that's the path that you ultimately are okay with going down, then it's like, well, we, the Coders Campus brand, should have caught that sooner, right?
Hmm.
We should have been able to catch that during our whole onboarding process, our whole, like, all the, I don't know if you went through all the different phone calls and the
Oh yeah.
people and the, like, you speak to a lot of people before you finally make it into the program, and hopefully those people, yeah, it's a sales team. Let's be honest, they're a sales
Yeah.
team, right? So
Oh
they have
yeah.
a job to sell.
Yeah.
But the direction I give them is, you got to make it hard on them to say yes. Like, don't just try to sell them to make them say yes so that we can get them in. Because again, I don't need the cash. The business doesn't need the cash. We're going to be
Hmm.
just fine if one student, if we talk one student out of joining, because if we talk you out of joining because we catch that you're going to be one of those people that drops out at month 2, I'd rather not have your business at all to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and yeah, so that's we try to be really. So I'm curious, was your experience anything like
I
that?
mean, that was like a big reason I think of my ultimately choosing
Okay.
was like, oh, these like the first call I had, I was almost like taken aback because all the other ones were like, yeah, you seem like great. You should go. Come on in.
Good.
Like,
Okay.
let's do it. And then I got off that call and I was like, did I can should I what am I good enough to do that? Or like which I think is an interesting, yeah, like it's almost starts that of like it helps you rethink about what decision you might be making. You're
Hmm.
like, do I actually want to do this? Like that call where it's like, this call isn't really about you attending, it's about us talking about who you are and seeing if you're a good fit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's Yeah, like that's the kind of program I was like, I hope I get in because I want to be a part of that.
Right,
I
exactly.
want to be a part of someone who believes that there are people who are right fits for this and people
Mhm.
that aren't right fits for this. And yeah, sure. I'm like, yeah, I made it. I made it in. I'm like a good fit. That's
That's
awesome.
correct.
But
Yeah,
just the fact that like the Coders Campus program is looking for people like that instead of just selling a product, which they are. They are selling a
we are
product. They
absolutely.
want the product to go to people that are like committed and excited, which is awesome. I was like, cool. I want to be a part of that group of people
That's
that
right.
are like a tight knit small crew. I want to be a part of that.
We keep it. I say we keep it small, but we keep it small because we reject almost everyone. We probably receive. I don't even know what the volume is at this point. We probably receive more than 300, probably close to 400 applications a month
Hmm.
into the program. 400 a month, and I don't know how many people were in your cohort, but maybe like 10,
Yeah, I think it was like 8 or 10,
8,
maybe.
10.
Yeah,
So 10 out of 400, right? So whatever that rejection rate is. Now, so we do accept some people who then ultimately choose not to do the program, and
sure.
somebody might actually accept 15 and get 10. But yeah, let's say we accept 15 out of 400,
Yeah,
right? So we really, and it comes from me. My sales team would love to be the people because they get paid on commission, right?
yeah,
But I'm the one saying, no, no, don't just, because what happens is you push them into the program, people who are not ready, and then they get 2 months in and they drop out, and I can't sleep at night. Like,
yeah, yeah,
I can't sleep at night when that
yeah,
happens. Anyway, that still will happen. And I still lose bloody sleep over the fact that these people, it's like, I feel awful. And it's just such a waste of time, their time. It's a waste of my team's time. It's such a horrible experience that I never want to have happen, that what's the word? We over stress or whatever, amplify the rejections of like,
yeah.
no, you're not good enough. I'm sorry. So yeah, so cool, good. I think we've covered. Oh, there's one last thing. So good advice to people. The 12-month younger version of Jeff. The one thing I want to say is, and you don't have to say yes to this. Don't feel pressure to say yes to this. If there are people listening to this who connect with you specifically, Jeff, who are like, again, I'm also in the Northwest, and I also love mountains and or whatever the case may be. They find some thread where it's like, I feel like I'm connected to Jeff, and I can really, I'm just like him, and they want to reach out to you, right? Is it okay if we share like your, I don't know, your LinkedIn profile so they can connect with you and have a chat with you? And
Yeah.
again, don't just blindly say yes, because you might get
No,
like 5 people a month bothering you on LinkedIn.
no,
But
no, I think that's fine. I like
okay,
I would love to. I feel like maybe I should have done more of that. Like I
reaching
should
out
have
to
reached
other.
out to whoever the other, like at that point it was like somebody named Ethan or I don't know. There was a few people who
Yep,
were on the videos that I watched or like interviews I watched, and I was like, I
yep.
should have, reached
Talk to
out and
them
tried to get more details into like what is the structure of this boot camp and like how
Mhm.
does it actually feel? And so I'm totally down to
to do
like
that.
lay it out for anyone
That's
that
it.
wants
To
to know
pay it
what's going
back, baby. That's what it's all about. Yeah, because that's what I think that gives a lot of. And again, I'm not paying Jeff anything. I'm not gonna like. I want you to be completely honest with these people. Like, this is one thing, because again, I'd rather someone say no to joining where they instead of and just not joining versus them saying, oh, okay, I think so, and then they join and then end up dropping out. Like, I would rather err on the side of, no, it's not a fit for you, dude, or whatever, and you're out. So don't flower it up. Be honest with them, and so yeah. Hopefully, Jeff, you can hold yourself to that standard of being honest with people. Therefore, when people reach out to you, they know that you are being honest with them, and you're not being paid by me, and et cetera, et cetera. So that would
on.
be
I'll be
very
honest.
lovely. I would love that, because again, I'm in the business of changing people's lives, and this is going to be a big part of it. So yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. Anything else? Otherwise, we can wrap it
That's
up.
it.
All right, sweet. Thanks, Jeff, for having the conversation. And hopefully we can touch base again once you have a job, and we can get an update from you and see how it's going on and what the details of your new job are, if that sounds
Sounds
fair to
great.
you. Yeah,
Yeah, thanks, Trevor. Appreciate the
sweet.
time.